Hello, and thank you for taking the time to join us for the Youth Passing System webinar series, where we continue our mission of empowering youth coaches to spread the ball around and score more points with an effective passing game. So after years of being asked, which passing concept should I run for teams, anywhere from high school on down, we created a streamlined plug-and-play passing system for busy coaches to just plug into their run game. Our program specifically improves your quarterback's decision-making, ensuring your team plays confidently on game day, relying on muscle memory to light up that scoreboard. My name is Matt Lasker, and alongside the Eternal One, fake Coach Leach, together we will be your guides through this free webinar series. So after spending a few hours with Eternal Coach Leach and I and completing this webinar series, you will have a pre-snap to the next snap, repeatable process your quarterbacks will step through on every single play. If you don't have this, it is a must, because without a quarterback who understands what's going on, you don't have a chance. You will have pre-made or custom engaging lesson plans your athletes will take home and play on their phones outside of the pressure of practice, which is huge for truly understanding the why. And lastly, you will have mastered your quarterback room, as our streamlined passing game ensures you and your quarterback can figure out issues on the fly, because we boiled it down to a few key points.
All right, welcome back. We are here to talk all things practice, whether it's a 2 or 3 day camp install plan, camp or in-season practice plans, how they all sync up and how we can make it all work for you, even practice cards for your coaches to refer to for the specific positions that they are coaching. But before we do that, let's chat with the Eternal One, fake Coach Leach again. Coach, great to see you. Now, we have talked a lot throughout this entire series about how important practice is. Can you reiterate some of those key points for any coach that didn't happen to catch our earlier conversation?
But football's always been a game of execution. It doesn't matter what you do schematically. The most important thing is execution, and we spend more time thinking about practice and how to, teach what we want to execute. And the more sharply refined you can teach it and focus on it, the better you're going to be.
The most important thing we do is practice. The most important thing I think anybody does is practice, and all those skills that, emphasis, attitude, and all those things. That's where it's all reinforced, is during practice. And what I'm most curious about, what other people do really, is how they practice. How do you organize your week? Everybody gets so many hours in the week, and there's a fine line between what's too much and what's too little, where you're going to get the most out of people, where the breaking point is.
1000%, Coach. If there is a secret sauce to being an effective coach, it's all about being organized and optimizing your practice time.
All right. So like I said, we're winding it down. We are at our everyday and specialty drills today, and I love this. It's kind of the magic of running this youth passing system in general. It is all about practice. And it is all about these really specific drills that we do to help unify the receivers, the quarterbacks, the running backs, and the linemen in this passing system, to make sure we're all on the same page, no matter what concept we are running, and that we can just go fast as a team. Okay, so let's get into the everyday and specialty drills. Okay, so just to level set, we have created cards for you to take on the field, especially when you're first starting out in this system, especially for youth and lower levels of high school coaches that don't have a consistent staff from year to year. You might just get handed, hey, here is a receiver coach, or here's a lineman coach. To make it easy to adopt this system, we've made these real easy, small cards that your position coach can take on the field with them, or you can give it to the trainer and have them hold it. It'll tell you the drills that are so important to executing the system. And so you can take these on here, see the exact coaching points for receiver coaches to talk about during our pat and go drill, or for our quarterbacks coach to talk to the quarterbacks during our perfect drill. These are just meant to be easy to reference cards, so you are hitting all the nuance, and this is where the winning comes in, guys, and the execution comes in. The winning nuance within these drills is what's going to carry into the games and cause that receiver to have a tight turn, get upfield, and get that extra 5 yards, and maybe even pop an easy throw for a touchdown that, if they didn't have this nuance, they'd just be tackled for a 5-yard gain. There's little things that just help these receivers, quarterbacks, running backs, and even linemen execute what they're doing at a deeper level. I'm going to zoom in now and to start on our first one. The first drill that we want to talk about is the perfect drill. Okay, so you'll see on all these cards, there's a front to these cards. This is the front of the card, and it's going to tell you exactly everything you need to know, big picture. It's the perfect drill. It's a 25% intensity because it's warm up while we work perfect technique. It's going to tell the exact directions of who does what. The quarterback snaps the ball, working his footwork. Receiver works his stance and start, jogging to the linebacker, sinking his hip. So anyway, I just wanted to show you big picture what the card shows. And then on the back of the card, this is the front of the card with all this information about how to run the drill. And in the back of the card, it actually shows a diagram of exactly what it should look like. Again, it rehashes the technique that the coaches will be harping on for receivers. As you can see, there's a lot of different things this one drill can help with while we're winding up, and quarterbacks is the same. So in general, that's how these cards are laid out, front and back, with diagrams on the back and directions on the front. Okay, so let's get into the perfect drill. And this is the way these two drills, the perfect drill and pat and go, are how we warm up every single day. Okay, we do very little static stretching anymore, if at all. So the first thing that we do when we start, we blow the whistle and we yell perfect drill. And so the receivers, running backs, and quarterbacks run over to a station that we have set up, or the quarterbacks have set up. And it looks a lot like this, with quarterbacks, 2 to 3 quarterbacks huddled around one area here and one area here. And you could have as many stations as you want. We need 2 stand-up bags or buckets, or even cones works. But as long as you have 2 things that indicate, for us, we call these linebackers. So the receivers can work between linebackers. Again, this reinforces our open grass reads and finding open grass. All of our concepts and the routes within the concepts are based on open grass and finding open grass and sitting in open grass. So this initial first drill of the day works so much of that because it is 25% intensity and we are only worried about technique. So the quarterback coaches are back here with the quarterbacks, and the quarterback is going to snap the ball, work his drop technique as the quarterback coach as requested. Sometimes we just say, for the first few, do 1 step, for the next one, do 3 step, so on and so forth. You can preset it or just talk about it in real time. They are working their feet, moving around, working their pocket presence, just warming up in general. Again, this is the first drill that we do all day, so we are completely cold. And then lastly, the quarterbacks are going to target, when they do throw it, they're going to target shoulders, the shoulder that is furthest away from the closest defender. So if this receiver stopped here, this would be the closest defender, so he's going to hit his opposite shoulder. Okay, so that's the quarterback piece of this. They snap the ball and then work their drop, pocket movement, and when they throw it, it's accuracy. But again, it's just warm-ups. Receivers, if you have multiple stations, you could have multiple lines, depending on how big your team is. I have it represented here with 2 stations with 1 common barrier in the middle, just to show how the drill works. So there'll be lines of receivers at either starting point. They are working perfect stance and perfect start, no false steps. Okay, so that's the first part. When the quarterback snaps it, they have their perfect stance, perfect start. Quarterback snaps it. He has no false step. So he is going to jog 25% speed intensity and go push off of this linebacker. We tell the kids to imagine linebackers that you're settling in grass with. So he goes and pushes off the linebacker, comes back towards the other barrier, puts his opposite foot in the ground and steps toward the quarterback with 1 hard step and flashes his hands, making what we used to call a noose with his hands. This drill used to be called settle and noose. Now it's the perfect drill because we want to emphasize the perfect technique that it takes to do this drill. Okay, but he runs to the linebacker, pushes off, comes back with his far foot, puts it in the ground, steps to the quarterback with his hands up, ready to receive the ball. That is when the quarterback, again, hits the shoulder opposite of the closest defender. And at that point, the receiver catches the ball, uses the placement of the ball as his momentum, makes a tight turn in that same direction, and jogs up 5 yards, okay? I do want to note here that that tight turn, if you guys are old school and know basketball, I use drop steps, but it's a really big point of emphasis that they do not catch the ball and loop around and you lose time and yardage running sideways, even a yard or two. If you can see them coming out of that, going diagonal out of it, this is a huge coaching point for receivers. We want it to literally be completely straight back upfield, as close to that as possible, so they can turn it, so they can do a tight turn, secure the ball with 4 points of pressure, and accelerate out for 5 yards. Again, it's not a pure acceleration, but you got to give a little burst and then jog for that 5 yards, just to show that the coaching point. So again, everything's laid out for you, just as you need it. The next quarterback comes up, jumps in. The next receiver comes up, jumps in, and we're just rapid fire. Each side is calling their own cadence. Okay, so that is the perfect drill. That's the first thing that we do every single day. You will have this card on the field with you. We were lucky enough to go to Levi Stadium. All right, so this is us warming up in Levi Stadium where the Niners play during our winter passing league. I hit the wrong shoulder on that one. But as you can see, kids are jogging. We have cones out. We ask them not to stop in the middle. Here's a great example: stepping to the ball, hands up, stepping to the ball, hands up. So that's a quick example of what it looks like in real time with real kids. Those were 7th and 8th graders that we were showing in Levi's, but we had 4th and 5th graders on the other side of the field doing it as well. Now let's move on to the next drill. It's still warm-up drill, but we call this pat and go. All right, so before we dive in, just want to make sure everyone knows what comes with the youth passing system. Number one, of course, in terms of playbooks, practice and install plans, specific position coaches, plans, and much more, we're going to give you everything from A to Z that you need to implement and install this offense on your own with these free webinar videos. Then we will take it to the next level and send home engaging lesson plans on your players' phones so they become experts at both the youth passing system, pre-snap to the next snap process, and experts at moving through the progressions of the youth passing system concepts, because they will step through that process on every single snap at your practice. Then they will step through the process through endless virtual reps on their phones. So when game day comes, they will be operating off muscle memory, playing fast, and making great decisions every single time. So again, the front of the card is the directions, exactly the order in which you're supposed to take your steps through this. And then we have the technique, quarterback technique, receiver technique that they're working on this. And then I even put the suggested order of the types of throws, and I'll explain more what that means, but we'll come back to that in a second. Okay, so the perfect drill. This looks very complicated, but it is not, I promise. So as we set up on the field, I'm sorry I don't have the yard marks here, but I'm sure you guys can imagine. These groups are about 20 yards apart, maybe 30 yards apart, because they will at some point be running routes, maybe slants toward each other or posts. So we need to make sure that that they are not going to run into each other. And when you have a big program like we do in the winter, we actually have 4 stations. So there's groups running directly at each other. So we really have to back it up to 40 yards in between the quarterbacks and the distance between them, if that makes sense. But right now, obviously, we have a card here to work with, and so we want to just make a representation. But essentially, if you have 2 groups, you put them diagonal from each other. So this group can catch a ball, and we'll go through exactly how this works. Catch the ball, then run over to the quarterback station, drop the ball in the quarterback's bucket that we have set up, go run over to this station, get back in line, run the drill, drop the ball in the bucket, get in this line. So it's a big circle how these receivers are warming up, okay? All right, so pat and go, again, is the second warm-up drill that we have and we do every single day. It is 50% intensity, like you show here. We've now done our perfect drill, and we have warmed up a little bit. Kids are kind of stretching in the lines when they feel like they need to stretch their hammies or whatever. First thing that we're going to do is just lay down the foundation. This is just now the quarterbacks in the middle of the field, the receivers either at the numbers or the slot, depending on what route you're going to run, and we'll show you the difference there in a second. But essentially, quarterbacks in the middle of the field to start off, the receivers are at the numbers or the distance that you can get a nice consistent fade ball with. So if you're the lower levels, we're going to bring them in until you can hit a consistent 15, 20 yard at the most throw with a fade that can hit the same spot every time over the outside shoulder, dropping into the bucket. If that's 10 yards, whatever, bring them in. You know, if you're 9U or 8U like we've seen, bring it into the slots. Just whatever it is that you can hit a consistent fade ball over the outside shoulder, and the receivers can catch it over their outside shoulder looking in. Okay, so we're going to get to all the detail in a second. So at the 8th grade level, we have these guys in the high school level, we have these guys at the top of the numbers. And just to start off, we're going to have them jogging again, 50%. Quarterbacks, you're about 50% strength. We have a DB out here just standing here. Usually it's a coach, to be quite honest, and they're kind of working technique, they're working releases, you know, again, very calmly, but they're standing here, you know, putting their hands up so the receiver has to release on them. Nothing too intense. They might want to practice their foot fire or stutter steps, however you guys teach it. But essentially, we're half speed, the receiver releases, is jogging, and the quarterback is taking nice, easy hole shots. That's a 2-ball or a 3-ball for a lot of you coaches out here if you're quarterback coaches. But they're not the big fades, not yet. But we're not throwing it hard, okay? We're just practicing nice and easy hole shot type trajectory balls just to warm up. So again, the receiver releases, catches the ball, jogs to this quarterback, drops it in his bucket. Don't put it behind his feet. Have a bucket for them or a place for them to put the balls nice and easy so they can just jog by, set it down nicely, not roll it to where the quarterback's feet are and they're going to step on it and break an ankle. Place the ball down nicely, go get in line and do it again. Okay, so you have quarterbacks throwing to this group, quarterbacks throwing to this group, and they're going around in a nice circle. So after a few reps of that, now we're going to start throwing the fade ball. This is just for the quarterbacks, especially on these fades and hole shots. This is a 1-step drop to start on these first 2 fades and hole shots. So it's 1 step, throw the hole shot. Again, not full speed, not as hard as you can. We're still warming up. 1 step, throw the hole shot. Receivers are running in a circle. Okay, so now we're at the fade ball. Same thing, 1 step drop. And we're throwing the fade. Again, we want it to drop over the outside shoulder of the defender. And I'm going to blow my screen up right now for a second because I really want to show you guys something. Okay, so the ball should be dropping, and I'm going to be assuming where my hands are the outside shoulder of the receiver. Okay, so the ball should be dropping over their shoulder into their hands, and the receiver should be watching it into their hands. Okay, this is very exaggerated. Now, one of the huge coaching points that you'll see on this card and that we need to tell to these receivers is there is no high pointing the ball in this pat and go drill. This is about tracking the ball over your shoulder and it dropping into their basket and they're looking it into their hands. We tell them that this is the hardest catch that they're ever going to have to make. And so if they can do this, they can catch anything. And it's true. We believe that. Quarterbacks, again, 1 step, releasing the ball. There's nothing to read. There's nothing to look at, especially with the younger kids. You find they want to hold the ball. They want to step and hitch up and take all this time. Well, those receivers who we have to remind all the time, especially at the lower levels, to jog, they're running and they're trying to get out. And so any extra time that the quarterback holds the ball more than just a step and throw, step and throw, that's how we want it to be when we're throwing these fades and hole shots with our three open grass reads, right? And the first read in most of these are this fade or hole shot. Step, and throw. That's all that they should be doing. And if they can't do that, you probably don't have a quarterback there. Okay. Now, obviously train them up, but step and throw. Okay. So they throw over the outside shoulder. Now, a coaching point for the receivers, instead of looking back for the ball and slowing all their momentum, we are going to teach them to look up and track it as it goes over their head. So they are looking up, not back. Okay. Again, this is going to be on the card, but I want to really highlight that, because as a receiver coach, that is a huge piece of this. Okay. So this is exactly what it looks like as far as the hole shots and fades look. Okay. All right. So let me show you a few. Here's our pat and go. The fade ball, nice and easy over the outside shoulder. You see how we're going fast. And now we're doing some slants here to get it warmed up in Levi's. We haven't started working snag yet. Sometimes we'll go slant with the older kids because they get a lot more slants than snags. And then we'll bring a coach in and they can work the snags. All right, so this is now 6th grade. These guys are a little younger over here. Okay, so we've done the hole shots and the fades. Try to get that done within 5 to 6 minutes, maybe 3 minutes each, where they're just throwing it, getting their arms warm. We only have about 10 to 15 minutes for this drill, so we got to get through this. But because we're trusting younger athletes to be able to find grass and take it, which really does rely on the quarterback and the receiver to really understand each other and understand our rules, this is why we will try to rep this open grass concept and open grass read every single chance we get. Okay, so warm-ups is a great place to do it. So you can see here, this A, that for me represents apex defender. Okay, I'm going to take those away just so I can move these things, because a snag, and I know this is new to a lot of you, these are coaches now. Okay, so we have coaches, again, letting the kids release off of them when we are doing hole shots and fades. And now we have coaches standing as apex defenders. Most teams, right, outside linebackers. We are telling our receivers who are running snags. Snags are slants and sit. Slant and sit. A lot of people call them spot routes in the NFL, but they are slant and sit routes. Okay, and they're all based on the outside linebacker or the apex defender, as you're going to hear me call them, because it's not always an outside linebacker. It could be a strong safety, or it could be a lot of things. So I'll call them the apex, but either way, in this drill, this is a coach, and we need to teach these receivers. They are running a 3-step slant, and against zone. Before the play, they are identifying the apex defender, the outside linebacker, and they are running at his heels. Okay, so they are running behind him. So if this coach takes a 45-degree drop, that means this route goes behind him and it gets deeper. Okay, so we're going to assume that this is where the linebacker is pre-snap. He drops out here. And so if he comes out to the flats or to the flat at all, the receiver is going to run his snag and sit down on the other side of him. There are linebackers in here, so we want to teach them to sit down as soon as this guy crosses their face, to sit down. Okay, so maybe it's there that he sits. Okay, but either way, as soon as this guy crosses his face into the flats, he sits, because he's going to keep going. And then we step to the quarterback and flash our hands. Okay, now again, if this linebacker backs up or goes in for some reason, the receiver is going to sit in this grass in between the corner and the apex. Okay, so he could sit fast and early, or he could sit beyond him. We need them to get used to this. And so, the first few practices, first few weeks, make it real obvious for them coaches, just so they can understand the concept and get the rules. But as the season goes on, as we start to drill this more and more, like, make it harder. Go in, then come out. Go out, then come in. Go low, go high. See how they react to it. The whole point is for them to feel it and find grass. And honestly, the sooner they sit down, the sooner the quarterback will see them with their hands up, stepping to them, just like perfect drill. It mirrors that exactly. That's why we do it. They catch the ball, tight turn, and get upfield, okay? All right, and so the next one on the docket is digs, okay? So as you can see, I've brought the receivers into the slot, because our digs in this offense are run from the slot. For you guys running the youth passing system. They are run from the slot position by our H and Y on verts, okay, 2 high verts. As you get older, if you want to layer in other plays, and once your team has executed and are experts at our core 6 plays, the very next play we will layer in for you is shallow, and shallow and dig are 2 really great concepts that work off each other, and this dig is deadly in both verts and in shallow. So regardless, we have them come into the slot and work their dig. And again, we have a coach standing here. He's at this linebacker spot here. And of course, these guys are 30 yards apart. So there's a middle linebacker for each of these groups differently, separately, a coach or a bucket, so they can visualize it. But in the dig, they're not going to come across the field. So at the higher levels in high school, digs can continue on over the entire field. We don't do that in this youth passing system. For the lower levels, we have them run the dig and then just find grass as soon as they clear this linebacker. So the rule for digs is outside release. So if this linebacker coach or real linebacker in real life widens to the hook to curl, then this dig runner needs to widen and run his dig that wide. And guys, that's great, because all we're doing is creating more open grass here for them to choose from. So they outside release this dig. The only time we don't get outside this dig, and we're pretty harsh about this and want to make sure that they try at the very least to get out. If this guy flies out to the flats, then fine, whatever, release him. But the receiver should be out here trying to get outside of him, again, to create even more open grass. So as soon as they get to the top of the route, which is 8 to 10 yards, they are coming in, stepping to the quarterback and flashing their hands. They just need to get in the right line of sight, right? So if this guy is more here, we need to come in a little bit more. You know, some teams might have their linebacker flying out to help. If this guy is leaving, he's coming. So maybe it's even a little bit more inside. But this is why we do this to start the day, so we can get used to running our digs and finding that grass, widening to the linebacker as he widens, finding the grass, turning this corner at 8 to 10 yards, and flashing our hands, stepping to the quarterback, just like perfect drill. So again, hole shots, fade balls, snags, and digs. Those are the 4 I would definitely start with. Again, this drill, you don't have that much time to do this drill. So as you get used to it, absolutely, you'll get to do all 4 of these if you can get efficient, or I should say, when you get efficient. It might not be as efficient to start, but you will get into the rhythm. Okay. All right. So that's pat and go, which is the second drill that we do to warm up. Okay. So these are our 2 warm up drills. This is how we get prepared every day. We want to really stress that the kids are stretching in their lines. If they feel their hamstring tight, okay, go stretch it while you're in line. You got a lot of time while you're waiting for your turn back here. Okay. Go stretch what you need to stretch while we're warming up. Be big boys and girls. Take care of your bodies. And then if you really want to do some dynamic stretching after this, you can spend 5 to 10 minutes, doing some dynamics. But typically we don't even need to once the kids kind of get used to this process. Okay. All right. So 2 other drills. These are not warm-up drills, but specialty drills that we do is a screen drill. So it is usually one of these at a time, not all of them. So let me take this off the screen for now, just so I don't cause confusion. So usually we are running the same screens at each other at the same time, but just like in pat and go, we have one group of quarterbacks and 2 receivers looking that way, and one group of quarterbacks and receivers looking directly back at them. Again, we are a good 20 yards apart. This isn't going to be as far apart because we're not throwing fades. We're only throwing different types of screens, but they are working a circle, right? They are running their play, running their route or blocking concept, running through it against the defense, and they're going and getting in line over there. These guys run theirs. They go get in line over here, okay? And so just like it shows, this is our bubble screen, Larry and Roger. And the quarterback is literally, this guy's going to be the outside receiver on the top of the numbers. He's going to be the slot at the hash marks. And Larry and Roger, we got a coach or maybe even a kid out here that can play defense. Sometimes we do this live. Sometimes we do this in thud. Sometimes we do this just with a coach back here holding a bag. However you want to do it. This is a great way to rapid fire. The receiver is working his blocking technique. The quarterback and slot are working their synergy on these Larry and Roger throws. Quarterback snaps it, flips his hips out here. Doesn't even need the laces. No laces throw. Just get the ball out. If he's throwing to his left, we're just turning double plays. We're just getting the ball out, getting the ball into our slot's hand. The receiver is working his blocking. Go to the whistle, get in line over here. Okay. So after a few minutes of that, we'll do the opposite. Okay. We'll switch to Lucy or Rose. Okay. And those are our tunnel screens. So there's no lineman here, but we have someone blocking for them so they can get the gist of how it feels to do his Lucy steps. And for the receiver, like I said in the screen video, that's a couple hard steps forward. We really need to make this cornerback back up. So if it's an extra couple steps to get him believing, fine. He's looping back to the line of scrimmage, staying real tight to his original alignment. We don't want him coming inside too much. Catching the ball at the line of scrimmage, and then catching it, get around this block to the inside, and then getting back outside down the sideline. Okay, so we're rapid fire Lucy Rose. We can rapid fire Larry Roger. Salt and pepper is the running back quick screen. And so we can line them up back here and do some salt and pepper action and turn this guy into a blocker and bring another coach over. So we can actually work salt and pepper with the blocking technique for the receivers and the running back catching the ball. But this is a great rapid fire drill. And we really want to kind of go fast. So the quarterback is kind of under pressure, snapping the ball, flipping his hips, getting it out, snapping the ball, flipping his hips, getting it out, snapping the ball, turning to, getting it out, snapping the ball, turning to, getting the ball out. So we really want to put some pressure on them in this. You can go fast and get a ton of reps with a 15-minute period if you have that much time, or you can do it in 5 just to steal some extra reps. Again, we have all the directions here. You'll be able to take this on the field. And the last one that's really great is routes on air. This really mirrors our 7-on-7 period. I'm going to show it to you against bags or dummy coaches. But sometimes you'll want to do this against buckets or defenders that know it's not competitive when we're installing in camp. And sometimes you're going to want real people there, and we're competing 7-on-7 during practice, during a competition period. But right now, this is just about we're going to call this routes on air and assume these are either buckets or coaches. This guy will probably be a coach because we want the quarterback going through his apex defender read. Okay, so here's how this goes. Routes on air. It is 100% intensity. This is during practice. We are working our progressions as quarterbacks. The receivers are working their routes. But in a perfect world, depending on how many quarterbacks you have and coaches you have, we want everybody to catch a ball in this drill to make sure we have enough practice. Okay, so one thing I'll say is that our combination routes, our apex man read routes, our 2-3 defender reads, basically our second and third progression read. We want to work the read. So then you really only need 1, 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks. So if you need to bring in a coach just to make sure you can get a ball to every receiver to get his catch rep on every single time, go ahead, bring him in and have him throw to one of these backside guys every single time. This outside quarterback will throw to this outside receiver. This quarterback will read the combination apex defender read. This quarterback will throw to a backside receiver, and this last quarterback, whether it's a coach or if you have enough players, can throw this guy. On every single play, everybody's getting the ball. Besides the read, one of these guys won't get a ball, but we need to be realistic. And lastly, we want these guys going through their reads and progression. They are going to rotate. So after the first snap, on the first snap, quarterback 3 is throwing out to the outside. Quarterback 2 is making the read on this guy. Quarterback 1 is throwing here, like we said. After that's done, they're going to rotate. So quarterback 3 is going to come here, and everyone else is going to come down. So now quarterback 2 is throwing out to the outside. Quarterback 1 is reading the first read, then coming to the 2-3 apex read and making that throw. This quarterback is now throwing backside. We're assuming these are open grass reads, so we don't need to read anything. And this guy, again, this is also an open grass read. We're just snapping it and throwing our easy gift throw. So we'll go through. They will continue to rotate. Receivers will get back in lines. If you have receivers, obviously, at certain positions, they will stay in their positions. If it's early in the season and you are trying to figure out who belongs where, you can just have receivers, rotating through the receiver lines just to see if their skill sets match up at all at certain positions. Okay. And we do this with all of our different routes. You can make this work for all of them. Obviously, stick, fade out, corner, all of these kind of work the same triangle offense here. Verts will work it, but the triangle's in the middle. But again, it is a great drill, whether it's on air just to get some reps on our progressions and throwing the ball, or if it's a competition period. Obviously, these quarterbacks all come out, and it's just we're working competition. All right, great. So those are our favorite specialty drills. All right, so those are our favorite specialty drills. There's more. I have a ton of lineman drills that we will give you in our lineman plan. We have others like as you get older and get better at the offense, we have the mesh drill and the everyday cross drill. So we will adapt as you adapt, but rest assured, our core youth passing systems will come with everything you need: player cards, practice cards, coaching plans, anything that you might need to make sure that there's synergy, especially with people running this passing system for their first year. You can even jump in now and still have success. It's that simple. Okay, so just make sure you are liking and subscribing. Make sure you are commenting below so you can make sure you get what's next on any passing systems. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, playerbook.com. Again, is where our coaching community lives and talking youth passing system and helping each other score points. And then our quarterback code podcast on Spotify is actually doing really well. So check it out. There's some really fun stories. Really get to know these coaches, but more importantly, really get to know how to bring along high-level quarterbacks from when they're young all the way through high school. We have that journey mapped out for you by talking to some of the best OCs and quarterbacks in the country. Okay. All right. So thanks again for joining. We'll see you on the next one, coaches.